good evening. I'm Shawn Yao.
I'm Pauline Verzosa.
I'm Edwin Gao, sitting in for Ces Oreña-Drilon. The big stories tonight. We hear more from resigned Congressman Zaldy Co, who's now mentioning the First Lady in his accusations. But President Marcos is adamant he's not negotiating with someone he calls a criminal who's about to lose his passport.
And former presidential spokesman Roque tells One News that his application for asylum has not been rejected yet. But he did admit that these are uncertain times for him.
And the Comelec has cleared former Senator Ces Escudero of an election violation over a 30 million peso campaign contribution from a government contractor.
Mula sa Pangulo, First Lady, sila mismo ang nagtatakda, kumokontrol at nakikinabang sa mga transaksyon.
Dinapitan po kami ng abogado ni Zaldy Co at nagtatangkang mag-blackmail. I do not negotiate with criminals. Kahit maglabas ka na ng video ng lahat ng kasinungalingan mo, Zaldy, makakansela pa rin ang passport mo. Hindi ka na makakatakas sa hustisya.
Resigned Congressman Zaldy Co is not done yet. This time he's tagging First Lady Liza Marcos in whole new alleged corruption scheme yet. But President Bongbong Marcos is still not buying any of Co's testimony. Mobile journalist Julie Liza with tonight's big story.
In another video posted on social media, Zaldy Co implicated First Lady Liza Marcos, this time for allegedly pulling her weight on rice importers. The former congressman on the run cited supposed data from Agriculture Secretary Francisco Laurel Jr. himself. Co claimed that in 2024, he requested then House Speaker Martin Romualdez to investigate skyrocketing rice prices. But Congressman Sandro Marcos allegedly called Romualdez to nip any probe in the bud upon the orders of his father, the president. Co further alleged that Laurel was even reprimanded by the speaker for a report that mentioned the First Lady in rice smuggling. The resigned Bicol Party List representative also accused Mrs. Marcos of blocking any investigation into onion prices back in 2022 because her brother, Martin Araneta, was into importation of the product.
Mula sa Pangulo, First Lady, hanggang sa anak, sila mismo ang nagtatakda, kumokontrol at nakikinabang sa mga transaksyon dapat sanay para sa kapakanan ng sambayanan.
Note that earlier this year, Agriculture Secretary Laurel revealed that Zaldy Co forced the DA to issue importation permits to his 3 companies. The DA chief said Co wanted permits for a massive volume of fish, something that violates the import formula of the agency. Co's latest video came out a few hours after President Bongbong Marcos revealed in his vlog that the ex-congressman tried blackmail on him. Marcos said Co's lawyer offered a stop to his client's video uploads if the government will not pursue the cancellation of Co's passport.
I do not negotiate with criminals. Kahit maglabas ka na ng video ng lahat ng kasinungalingan mo na pag-destabilize sa gobyerno, gusto kong malaman mo, Zaldy, makakansela pa rin ang passport mo. Hindi ka na makakatakas sa hustisya.
Co's lawyer attorney Rui Rondain was quick to call the president's statement, quote, completely untrue. Rondain said he never spoke to anyone about Co's videos and passport. Prior to this, Zaldy Co also released a letter he claimed to have written President Marcos in February this year, calling for scrutiny of insertions in the national budget. This, too, was brushed aside by the palace. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro did not only cite inconsistencies in Co's video statements.
Sa tuwing mapupunan natin ang kanyang mga inconsistencies, sumasabay po ang kanyang pagbabago ng kwento sa pagbabago ng hairstyle sa video.
Kapatid Mobile Journal Julie Liza, One News.
Now, in other news, the Anti-Money Laundering Council has secured 2 new freeze orders against an incumbent and former official in connection with the flood control probe. The orders cover the assets of a current high-ranking official and a former politician. The law prevents AMLAC from disclosing the identities of these individuals. Frozen assets include 230 bank accounts, 15 insurance policies in 2 helicopters, and 1 airplane. To date, AMLEC has already frozen 11.7 billion pesos in assets, including thousands of bank accounts, insurance policies, vehicles, properties, and even e-wallets. Meanwhile, another DPWH Mimaropa official surrendered to authorities as the clock ticks for remaining suspects at large to turn themselves in. Montrex's Tordesillas Tamayo was arrested upon his return from Jordan and brought to the Sandigan Bayan this morning. A News 5 source said he was just on leave and did not plan to evade arrest. Tamayo served as officer in charge of the Planning and Design Division, and he is one of 16 personalities charged over an anomalous road dike in Nauhan, Oriental Mindoro. Meanwhile, Juliet Calvo was brought back to Sandigan Bayan after a new arrest order was issued against her. She earlier posted a 90,000 peso bill or bail for her graft charge.
Former spokesman Harry Roque spoke to our sister program Storycon on his side of the story as reports circulated yesterday that he had been arrested in the Netherlands. Not true at all. Via a Zoom interview, Roque said he remains an asylum seeker whose application will now be processed in Austria. He is just in the Netherlands right now because his health condition prevents him from flying to Austria.
I was on board the flight to Austria pursuant to what is known as the Dublin rules. No? Netherlands has said that they will not process it because it is Austria that will process it. So once and for all, sabi ko, sige, punta na tayo sa Austria para masimulan na yung proseso na yan. But I had two medical procedures here in Europe. One was a major surgery last 30th, and another one is a minor day surgery 2 days ago. And both attending physicians issued a certificate of unfitness to fly. So ako naman, dahil sabi ko nga, sabi ng Netherlands, kailangan na pumunta ng Netherlands, ng Austria, I did not object dahil I did not want to seem ungrateful. I went, but the airline, when they saw the, what is called the medical passport, when they saw the medical passport, asked, do you want to take this flight? And I said, no, because my physician said I should not. That's why they said, okay, you can go.
Right.
Now, so yun ang nangyari kahapon, no?
Roque said he now has until December 10 to go to Austria. But what will happen to him in the next 2 weeks? Roque admits he is clueless.
I do not know, but what I am doing is I have reported to the immigration authorities and to the body responsible for my transfer to Vienna that I am in my existing address. They know my phone number, they know my email, so I'm not hiding. I do not know what will happen now. I prefer to stay in the Netherlands because of my promise to Tatay Digong na hindi ko naman siya iiwan. But I already complied with the Dutch authorities. Paulit-ulit kong sinasabi na I don't want to seem ungrateful naman. But yun nga, no, medical reasons naman, hindi rin ako pinayagan ng airline. So I do not know what will happen next.
Roque is facing an arrest warrant for qualified human trafficking. He served as lawyer to Whirlwind Corporation, a real estate firm that leased a piece of land in Porac, Pampanga to Pogo Hub Lucky South 99. A passing court recently granted the government's request to have his passport canceled, as well as that of businesswoman Cassandra Lee Ong. The government also sought an Interpol red notice against Roque.
Who said I'm not facing the charges? I have a pending petition for review in the office of the Secretary of the Department of Justice against the information filed against me, after which I will seek recourse with the Court of Appeals. So hindi ko po tinatakbuhan yan. Ako po ay nagpaparticipate sa proseso dahil meron naman ako talagang mga steps that are open to me to question the filing of the information in court. And that's pending now. I'm confident that as soon as I get to the Court of Appeals, that they will know that there's absolutely no evidence.
Roque is also facing an inciting to sedition case along with the vlogger Maharlika for spreading the infamous Polvoron video, which allegedly shows President Marcos snorting cocaine. Roque is standing by the veracity of that video.
Because I was a part of the 70th Congress and my colleagues are there have told me, kaya ako pinupulbos dahil dyan sa Polvoronic video which they attribute to me and which they have filed charges for incitement to sedition against me and a disbarment charge, no? So lahat yan, you know, it's easy to prove. And mabuti na lang, na-validate na ni Amy Marcos na talagang vangagang presidente And in effect, she authenticated that video that has made the rounds, no? Because she confirmed that her brother is an addict.
Apart from those juicy sound bites, Ed, what else did Harry Roque tell you guys?
Basically, Attorney Harry was saying na he was told by the Netherlands government that he should have applied for asylum application sa Vienna, Austria, where his visa was issued. Si Harry kasi was going by the rule that he understood that you apply doon sa country where you first entered when you are going to
enter the
strike for
So I
political asylum.
guess meron siyang multi-year European visa issued by Schengen visa from Vienna.
From
Austria.
Vienna.
Yeah.
So yun, he was going by the idea na you have to only apply doon sa country kung saan ka pumasok. Now, he was told by Dutch authorities na no, you apply kung saan ka nakakuha ng visa. And he was, kasi sabi sa kanya, so, ibig sabihin, mali ang in-applyan mo na bansa.
All this
time.
All this time.
He arrived in Netherlands in March of this year. That's 8 months ago.
Yeah.
So all this time, mali pa lang in-applyan mo. Sabi niya, ang pagkakaintindi ko kasi was
binanggit niya yun, yung
the Dublin regulation. Which state, among other things, na yun nga, it states the rules of where you have to apply so that you don't have multiple applications all throughout,
So,
for
bawal
example,
mag-forum
Europe.
shopping.
Oo, bawal forum shopping. So, it turns out na ganito. Yun nga, you apply dun sa country where you got your visa. If you have a visa or passport, it only applies, the country of first entry rule only applies for political asylum seekers who do not have a visa or a passport.
Okay, pero ito nga yung one thing that struck me also, because you guys were asking him earlier, I did watch the interview, and sabi niya na wala sa kanya yung passport niya kasi nandun sa in-apply niya, di ba? And then yung Dutch authorities ang nag-book ng ticket niya at ang nag-check-in sa kanya, kumbaga, so may naipakita sila.
Well, that's also interesting kasi in his interview last night with Maharlika in her vlog, ang pagkakasabi pa ni Harry Roque, hindi rin niya maintindihan kung bakit atat na atat ang Netherlands government na paalisin siya papuntang Netherlands. So, yun nga, so mukhang sila pa nagbayad ng ticket just to send him off. Now, after waiting for so many months, biglang, di ka pala dapat dito. Which of course raises a lot of other questions. But for that now, let's talk to our first guest for tonight. We have Attorney Gilbert Andres. He's of course an ICC accredited lawyer. He's of course also from the Center for International Law, and he just arrived from I understand from the Netherlands a few weeks ago. Attorney, thank you for joining us and welcome again to Big Story.
Yes, good evening, Ed, Pauline, and Shawn.
Sir, last time we talked to you kasi hindi pa naman, wala pa namang movement kay Harry Roque. But now we're asking you about Harry Roque's case. Kasi in particular, lumalabas na parang umabot ng 8 buwan bago siya sabihan ng Dutch government na mali ang in-applyan mo. What could have happened there? How could they have waited 8 months and then suddenly parang nagkaroon ng epiphany na parang you shouldn't be applying here, you should be going to Vienna to file your application there and have them process your application. What could have happened there? What did the rules say?
Well, Ed, it's really difficult to know for sure. No, this is really merely hypothetical because we know that the process for asylum seeking is a confidential process. But what I can surmise is there's really a lot of asylum applications pending before the Dutch government. So, grabe po yung volume, thousands upon thousands, So, baka doon siguro na, nagkaroon ng katagalan, sa number of applications.
But one would have thought na once you apply and once the person receiving your application peruses your application, parang you shouldn't be here. Hindi mo ba ganun? I don't know. Of course,
it's also possible that it was not an in-person. Kumbaga, may mga Dropbox applications usually for first world countries, di ba? Sa atin kasi lahat face-to-face.
Actually, mahilig personal experiences sa Netherlands, mahilig talaga sila sa online, na mga applications. Kasi even yung personal interview, kailangan may time slot talaga. So they're very efficient on that. So I think it's really because of the volume of applications for asylum seekers.
But let me just squeeze this in before I forget. What are the chances that this decision to refer him to Austria had something to do with the cancellation of the passport of Harry Roque?
I think it's purely because I really don't think that is the reason. No?
Okay.
Well, of course, this is merely speculation. We don't know for sure. But I really think it's because of the Dublin regulation, which is a EU law regulation. Kasi yun nga, my first point of entry principle. So presumably, that was the state of Austria. So baka kinorek na ng the Netherlands government. Now, as to whether that's because of the arrest warrant, yes, we presume that there's already a red notice. Because if there's a red notice, then all of the 196 member states of the Interpol already have been notified. But it's really up to the domestic laws and procedure of that Interpol member how to implement an arrest warrant by another state.
Attorney, I just wanted to ask, because you did mention that the Dutch government is quite efficient when it comes to processing applications. But does it usually take this long? I mean, 8 months kahit si Attorney Harry Roque parang nagulat. Ngayon lang niya nalaman na mali pala yung parang process ng kanyang pag-apply sa Netherlands.
Parang kahit sa Pilipinas, matagal yun eh.
Oh. I do know. Kaso, grabe, I just heard na grabe yung talaga, volume ng mga asylum seekers. In fact, I heard from a third source na it takes 2 years just to process completely an application for asylum. Pero in the meantime, they're actually being housed in a facility provided for by the Netherlands state. Kaya para meron pa rin silang mga basic needs. So, in fact, it's a big issue right now in terms of domestic politics sa the Netherlands, yung number of refugees at asylum seekers.
Yeah, actually, all of Europe, attorney, may mga ibang countries kasi hindi ganun ka-friendly yung policies nila towards the asylum seekers and the refugees. So, parang pupunta talaga sila sa mga friendly countries. And of course, the Netherlands is one of them. Ang tanong, how is Vienna on that? I mean, are they known to give... Kasi Netherlands, sikat dun di ba? Asylum seekers usually flock there, but Austria?
What about Austria?
I think, Shawn, it's all over EU, na they're actually a bit open, except that some EU countries are now rethinking their policies. So, let's say, for example, Germany, this is public knowledge, they're clamping down. Kasi ang dami din galing sa Syria. Remember, there was a civil war sa Syria, pero na rin yung civil war, it ended last December of last year. So it's really a big issue EU-wide.
In the meantime, I guess the question is, what happens, right? So Harry Roque himself told sila Ed earlier this afternoon na may December 10 deadline siya para pumunta at magpakita sa Austria at mag-file nito. In the interim, yun yung napakadaming tanong. Anong mangyayari sa kanya? Pwede ba siyang kunin ng Interpol kapag may red notice na, etc.?
Attorney, titignan lang doon kasi Harry was claiming na if he goes beyond December 10 in the Netherlands, then the Netherlands will have to take jurisdiction over his case, hindi na yung Austria. And I suppose that works in his favor kasi he would rather be in the Netherlands closer to Tatay Digong.
Okay, sige. We need to unpack this.
Okay.
With respect to Shawn, the Interpol is really just a cooperation agreement with an international organization called the International Police Criminal Organization. So it does not have a police force. And wala po silang mga tauhan na may tsapa at may baril. In essence, it's still the domestic police that will have to implement any arrest warrant that's given through the Interpol. So it's really cooperation agreement, and still it's the domestic laws and procedure ang magfa-follow. Just like in the Netherlands, they will follow the Dutch law as well as the Dutch proceedings. The same for Austria and the same for the Philippines.
But how does Attorney, how does that interplay work? Because this warrant was given by a local Philippine court, but as you mentioned, meron ngang laws, domestic laws in the Netherlands, and now we're possibly looking at Austria as well. Will this warrant be executable in any of these countries? Which law supersedes one another?
Okay, that's actually a very complex question. Why? Because it's an interplay of both international law and domestic law. Now, ang domestic law dito, it involves potentially 3 countries. First is the Philippines, because there's a court that issued an arrest warrant. But we know that arrest warrant is only limited to the Philippines. And how is it transmitted? It's transmitted through the Interpol, so that's the red notice. Now, the red notice will be transmitted to the 196 member states. Now, let's say it was already received by the state of the Netherlands. Now, in the Netherlands, they will have to analyze it. How will they analyze it? First question, is there an extradition treaty between the Netherlands and the requesting state, which for this case is the Philippines? Maybe I should not say requesting state. Between the state who issued the arrest warrant, which is the Philippines. And I've checked the DOJ website, and from the DOJ website, we don't have an extradition treaty with the Netherlands. Therefore, the extradition process will not be triggered. The Philippines cannot request an extradition. So, what will be the next step? It's really up to the Philippines. So, will the Philippines make a what's called a mutual legal assistance request? But a mutual legal assistance request may be based on a treaty or based on reciprocity. Wala din po tayong mutual legal assistance treaty with the Netherlands. So it can only be based on reciprocity. But if it's based on reciprocity, then it's really subject to the discretion of the Netherlands. So, and of course, there's always judicial oversight because that's really the rule of law across the EU. So, ito po yung mga complications actually, the interplay of Philippine domestic law, international law, as well as Dutch domestic law.
So kumbaga, mas pabor sa kanya kung mag-grant siya ng asylum ng Netherlands kasi walang extradition law. So at least things are a bit clearer. Am I right to assume that, Attorney Gilbert, vis-a-vis Vienna, which I don't think we have a specific extradition treaty, but we have some sort of agreement about how to go about those things?
Okay, actually, na-point out mo, Shawn, it's another layer. Because an asylum application adds another layer because there's actually an invocation of the so-called principle of non-refoulement, meaning to say it's a principle under the Refugee Convention as well as the Convention Against Torture. If there's a reasonable ground to believe that that person will actually face persecution, torture, cruel, inhuman, degrading treatment or punishment, then the state wherein that person is cannot actually return that person. So that actually adds another layer. Now, with respect to Austria, I checked the DOJ website, we also don't have an extradition treaty with Austria. We also don't have a mutual legal assistance treaty with Austria. In fact, we only have for 3 European states. That's Switzerland, Spain, and Russia. So that's really the complication there.
Pero so that's if asylum is granted by either Vienna or by the Netherlands. What if it's still pending and you have an arrest warrant here, you have a red notice, and you have a request for reciprocity of some sort? What applies then? What takes precedence then?
Well, actually, to be frank, the ball is also with the Philippines because is the Philippines applying for legal assistance based on reciprocity, and that will be through diplomatic channels. Because for the Netherlands, I think, knowing their mindset, they will lean toward human rights and they will lean towards also their protection under the European Convention on Human Rights. In fact, there's another layer in European Convention on human rights. So I think the ball is now with the Philippine government, how it will act and how it will trigger diplomatic channels and requests.
Am I getting you right, sir? More likely than not, the Netherlands would be more partial to protecting or erring on the side of caution in a case like this.
Yes, you're right on that, Ed. And I'm saying this not for any specific person.
Yeah.
In fact, the example here is Joma Season. I just heard from the grapevine na yung kanyang application for asylum was actually denied.
Okay.
But he was
He stayed
actually
there for the longest time.
This is from rumor mill. Rumor mill to But what I've heard also, it was just based on acquiescence that he stayed in the Netherlands because there's a premium on protection of human rights. That's why it's really, now the ball is really with the Philippine government.
So, attorney, my understanding is ganito. So, parang kailangan mo mag-thesis defense because it is a case-to-case basis. So, if the government thinks you've defended your case well enough, then it's gonna be discretionary from that point on, right? What's going to happen after?
You're right on that, Shawn. You're right that it's on a case-to-case basis because every facts of a person is really unique. So, it's really context-based.
Attorney, when it comes to international law, you did mention the principle of refoulement or refoulement, or the refugee principle. Can Attorney Harry Roque invoke that? What qualifies as political persecution? We actually asked this also with Attorney Torion last night, and he said it's quite subjective. It will be the state deciding that. But what do they usually look at, Attorney?
Pauline, actually, it's persecution. And there are both subjective and objective criterion. Now, titingnan actually ng country yung overall context ng tao to. Titingnan din nila kung mayroon bang siyang charges. Ano ba yung charges na yan? Politically motivated ba yan? In essence, those charges will be looked at. Kasi let's give an example. Let's say for certain countries, they actually have these crimes called crimes against the state or propaganda against the state. Oo. That's on its face. It's politically motivated na crime, But I think it's really human trafficking. I'd really not consider yung inciting to sedition, kasi there's a freedom of expression issue on that. But human trafficking. We know that human trafficking is a serious crime. In fact, it's a trans-border crime. And there has really been a premium to clamp on it. So titingnan niya ng country, is this on its face, is this a political crime? On its face, is this a politically motivated prosecution? Kasi ang talagang standard is persecution, not prosecution. So talagang, once again, this is where the context comes in. So there's a personal context, there's a larger socio-political context. So that's where the case-to-case basis comes in.
Pero sir, yung mga gobyernong maswabe, they don't really charge you with political crimes. I mean, for example, in the Philippines, rebels are not charged with rebellion. They're charged with murder and other common crimes. I mean, that's how it's usually done. So that you can sidestep the issue of whether or not it's a political crime and the issue of bail as well. So, ganun po, what if in this particular case, si Harry Roque is claiming na yes, the charges against him are human trafficking, but it's supposedly politically motivated because he was only doing the role or the judge or the job of a lawyer. So may ganun po, the crime does not sound political, but the allegation or the assertion is that it's a politically charged crime.
Oo, so kailangan niyang ma-justify ng asylum seeker applicant, At susuriin din yan ng state, and for this case, sinabi na rin niya, that's the state of Austria. So this is where the complication comes in because remember, persecution by itself, it's now a legal term, but there are facts that are needed to arrive at that legal conclusion. Kasi persecution is already a legal conclusion.
Okay. Can we switch over really quickly because November 28, 5:30 p.m. Manila time, 10:30 a.m. Dutch time. magkakaroon ng ICC hearing on the petition of former President Rodrigo Duterte. Anong fearless forecast nyo, attorney? And what do you think is going to happen? Or is the interim release going to be granted?
Yeah, fearless forecast. I'm speaking as lawyers for the war on drugs victims, and we really hope and really pray that the appeal for the interim release decision will be denied, will be dismissed by the appeals chamber. Why am I saying this? That's our hope and prayer. Because in fact, what the appeals chamber will look at is there really a very obvious error in law or in fact? But we know that the pre-trial chamber in its decision na nagbasuka po sa interim release application, they really even used the statements of no less than the former president himself, Mr. Duterte, as well as the Vice President Sara Duterte. So talagang there's factual basis for the denial of the application for interim release. Which they said that he's a flight risk based on his own statements and the statements of his family members. And then it's really a unanimous decision by the pretrial chamber. There was no dissenting opinion. So that's really our hope and prayer that the appeal will be dismissed by the appeals chamber.
But would the question of Duterte's health be a factor, whether minor or major, in the decision on the appeal?
Ed, no, it will not be a decision. It will not be a factor. In fact, it will never be considered as a factor. Why? Number one, it's not one of the conditions or grounds set forth in Article 58 of the Rome Statute. Number two, even the pretrial chamber actually dismissed and actually ignored that factor, did not consider that factor because health is never a consideration in terms of interim release application based on the Rome Statute. Why? Because, comes to my third point, all of the health and wellness needs
Are being
of
met
the
there.
detainee are provided for by the ICC.
So, attorney, if not the health, what about the concerns of the victims, the sentiments of the victims? Do you think you were able to present a good case before the ICC in order for this interim release request by former President Duterte to not be granted?
I think so, Pauline, because we actually shared our views and concerns through the Office of the Public Counsel for Victims. And remember, consideration for the victims is one of the conditions, one of the factors being considered by the pretrial chamber as well as by the appeals chamber, because it's in Article 58, if it will actually adversely affect the release of a detainee, can adversely affect, obstruct, or an investigation or prosecution. And we actually convinced that yes, because there are really high probability of security risks to the victims as well as potential witnesses if Mr. Duterte is released. Because the Duterte families are really still influential. In fact, all of the Duterte family members, except maybe for one, are actually public officers, elected officials.
Okay. ICC accredited lawyer, Attorney Gilbert Andres. Sir, magandang gabi and thank you for joining us tonight.
We're just going to take a quick break, but coming up, the Independent Commission for Infrastructure, or ICI, is zooming in on so-called contractors and has submitted evidence to the Ombudsman on why they should be charged for the flood control mess. The details of that story and more when we return. Stay tuned to The Big Story. Welcome back and thanks for staying with us here on The Big Story. The Independent Commission for Infrastructure, or ICI, has recommended the filing of charges against 8 contractors. And these are congressmen who supposedly own or are linked to construction companies that have handled projects with the DPWH. In the ICI's 6th referral, and the first to include mostly lawmakers, evidence have been gathered on the following. Former Congressman Zaldy Co for FS Company Builders Supply, Congressman Edwin Guardiola for Newington Builders Inc., Lurel Development Corporation, and S-Ang General Construction and Trading Inc. There's also Congressman James Ang Jr. for IBC International Builders Corporation and Alan Con Development Corporation. Congressman Journey Jet Nisay for JVN Construction and Trading, Congresswoman Augustina Pancho for CM Pancho Construction Inc., Congressman Joseph Lara for JLL Pulsar Construction Corporation, Congressman Francisco Matugas for Bumetrics Development Corporation, and Congressman Noel Rivera for Tarlac 3G Construction and Development Corporation.
The ICI recommended that the Office of the Ombudsman file criminal and administrative charges against these lawmakers over some 1,300 projects awarded to their or their families' companies from 2016 until 2024. In referring their case, ICI Chairman Andres Reyes pointed out the fundamental breach of ethical standards in taking part in state infrastructure works while holding public office. Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon, who joined the ICI during the filing, brought with him 21 boxes of documents to support the referral.
Members of Congress are barred from having a financial interest, directly or indirectly, in any government contract, franchise, or special privilege during their term of office.
Meron po kaming pinipresentang ebidensya na sila din ay may pag-aari ng mga construction company na merong mga iba't ibang kontrata sa DPWH.
Meanwhile, the Office of the Ombudsman says it is investigating at least 10% of House members for alleged involvement in flood control projects. Ombudsman Boying Remulla intends to discuss this further with House Speaker Boji D. His office has also requested the Bureau of Immigration to issue a foreign travel restriction order against 77 individuals currently being investigated over the flood control scandal.
Madi-disrupt talaga ang Congress dito. These things will hurt a lot. Marami masasaktan dito kasi the book is full of our law is full of statutes that will make people accountable and pay the price, to make them pay the price for their misdeeds.
Meantime, the Commission on Elections finds no evidence to support a complaint against Senator Francis Cheese Escudero and Centerways Construction and Development Incorporated President Lawrence Lubiano. That's over Lubiano's 30 million peso campaign donation to the former Senate President back in 2022. In its resolution, the Comelec's Political Finance and Affairs Department recommended terminating the investigation into the matter. According to the department, when Lubiano contributed to the campaign of Escudero, he merely exercised a right that is personal to him. The Comelec office adds that there is no evidence establishing that funds used in the contribution came from Centerways or that its corporate money crept into the campaign funds of Escudero. It also states that when Lubiano made the contribution, he did not have any existing contract or subcontract with the government. There is also a finding that Lubiano and Centerways are distinct legal entities. With this, the department states that Lubiano could not have committed a violation of Section 95C of the Omnibus Election Code when he made a contribution to Escudero. This specific provision bars election candidates from accepting campaign donations from contractors doing business with the government. Meanwhile, in a statement, Escudero says that Comelec's decision affirms the poll body's transparency, honesty, and adherence to rules. Escudero adds that the ruling strengthens his faith in institutions and reinforces his commitment to continue serving with integrity and accountability. And so we discussed this some more with Attorney Romulo Macalintal, a veteran election lawyer. Magandang gabi, Attorney, and thank you for joining us.
Magandang gabi, Ed, at sa iyong mga kasama at mga tagapanood, tagapakinig.
Attorney, ano po ang ibig sabihin nito? Kasi with this ruling on Escudero's case, lahat po ng ng mga tumanggap ng mga donations from officers, founders, and so on of contracting corporations, lahat sila wala na pong liability.
Well, ayan naman ay, I think it is not yet final. It's not yet the decision of the Comelec. It was just a recommendation by a department of the Comelec. So I think the ball is still in the hands of the Commission on Elections and Bank. Ang dapat na mag-decision niya kung talagang tama yung findings na yan ng Political, Finance, and Affairs Department ng Comelec ay the Comelec and Bank. Because as you will note in the resolution, ang nakalagay dyan, for your honor's consideration. In other words, something has to be done in connection with the said resolution, ano? At ako, tataka nga ako bakit na-release kagad yan eh. Usually, in matters concerning investigations conducted by a department of the Comelec and bank is the one releasing the information as to whether or not the recommendation of a department is approved by the NBank. Pero dito nagtaka nga ako bakit biglang lumabas kagad itong resolution na ito. So, sa akin, we have to wait for the decision of the Comelec. Although, from the looks of it, dito sa resolution ito, mukhang tama naman yung ginawa nitong department na ito. Kasi maliwanag nga naman sa batas na it is the company, yung kumpanya ang hindi pwedeng magbigay ng donation. At sa ilalim kasi ng ating corporation code, iba yung company, yung korporasyon, at iba yung stockholders o officers. Siguro dapat maliwanagan ng taong bayan tungkol dyan. Kasi siyempre magagalit ang taong bayan, ano ba naman yan? Pero sa mga abogado sa nakakaintindi ng legal terminologies, sa ilalim po kasi ng corporate code, hiwalay ang pagkatao ng isang korporasyon at saka ng isang pangulo o opisyal ng nasabing korporasyon. So dito, walang napatunayan, walang nagbigay ng anumang ebidensya na yung perang ibinigay kay Escudero ni Mr. Lubiano ay nanggaling sa company. Kundi nagkaroon lamang ng parang insinuation na dahil sa president ay nanggaling na yun doon. Ang problema kasi dito, the problem with this case, ito ay motu proprio. Ibig sabihin, on its own, gumawa ng investigation ng Comelec. Walang private individual na nag-submit ng anumang ebidensya.
Walang
siguro dito dapat mayroong evidence noong money trail. Saan ba nanggaling yung pera ni Lubiano? Kailan nagkaroon ng ganong pera si Lubiano? Kailan at noong bang panahon yun, nag-release ng ganong kalaki yung kanyang kumpanya? So, doon sana matitrace natin kung talagang personal money yun ni Mr. Lubiano. Pero dito, basta lang sinabi, siya ay president. But walang direct evidence to show that the money came from the company. Yun ang malaking problema dito. Kaya, ang nangyari, wala daw ebidensya. And so, there is no legal impediment as to the receipt by Escudero of the said amount from Mr. Lubiano.
Yes, sir.
Yun
Sir,
ang kasong ito.
Yes, sir. Sir, I get naman what you mean. In fact, we've heard similar opinions from former Comelec commissioners like Commissioner Luis Guia. Pero sir, my question din is this doesn't it go against the spirit of the law of Section 95C, which would prohibit conflict of interest and undue influence by a donor on a government official who may be dealing in the future with the approval of contracts?
Kasi sa Section 95C, wala naman yung conflict of interest. Wala naman sinasabi yan yung gano'n. Ang maliwanag lang na sinasabi ay yung mga those people or persons who have contracts with the government. Siguro dapat mabago itong batas na ito. Hanggat hindi na babago yung batas na yan, yung walang magagawa. Dahil sa iyan ang paninindigan nila, pakahawak. And as a matter of fact, I think that's the reason why Escudero accepted the donation. As a lawyer, he knows na ito naman ay hindi galing sa company, galing to Lubiano. I don't think Escudero would make himself a sitting na alam niyang bawal, gagawin pa rin niya yun. He is a lawyer. The most of it na gagawin niya, hindi na lang niya i-declare siguro. Pero hindi ito, dineclare niya, Lubiano, although, sabihin ko may conflict of interest, but then, wala yun sa batas It's not provided for by the law.
And we all know that loophole. Oo nga, attorney, yung loophole na yun exists. Ang tanong, it's not in anyone's best interest and not in lawmakers' best interest to close that loophole. So, umaasa ka pa ba na masasara yun? Siyempre, donors yun
Wala talaga, dahil kasi that's the law. Legally, wala na, hindi yun ang defense nila. But dito, political na lang, taong bayan na lang ang makakaalam yan. That people should decide in the future. But as of now, wala tayong magagawa. All we have to do is cry. Maiiyak na lamang tayo sa mga nangyayari ito sa bayan natin. Alam naman natin na for delikatesa, hindi dapat tatanggapin. For delikatesa, hindi dapat nakikipag-ugnayan sa ganong mga tao, yung mga official na yan. But then, nangyayari. Wala tayong magawa kasi laging may depensa.
Well, Attorney, sabi nga ng Comelec, there's no evidence to prove or to justify this whole principle of piercing the corporate veil. But what would have sufficed as evidence? You mentioned kanina paper trail.
Ang dapat yung money trail if Lubiano claims that the money was his own personal money, dapat may evidence, where did you get that money? At saka isa pa, was there evidence to show na company released the same amount on a particular date? So yun yung ganung money trail, siguro yun ang malakas na ebidensya. Pero dito kasi, no evidence whatsoever. Yun lang mga, they are just, sinupresume nila na gano'n ang nangyari. This was a mere presumption. Kaya nangyari, walang magagawa ang Commission on Elections. Ito ang problema ng motu proprio investigation. They did not dig deeper on the money trail. If they had only dig deeper on the money trail, sakasakali may nakita pa sila ibang ebidensya. But accepting the facts as given in this case, wala tayong magagawa legally. But siguro, tayong taong bayan, politically, may magagawa tayo in the future.
Attorney Mac, quick question lang sana about dun sa notaryo kay Pechi Espera because you also noticed na yung kaso ninyo, I think, against Attorney Agra. May update na po ba yung urgent manifestation ninyo sa Supreme Court?
Wala silang ginawang action. Ang ginawa pa nga, dismiss pa nga yung aking petition. And nothing was mentioned about that notarization of several documents, about 70 documents, signed by the same notary public who claimed that that was not the genuine signature of that notary public. And I'm still waiting for the Supreme Court to resolve it. But until now, after the lapse of about almost 2 months, wala kami natatanggap sa Supreme Court. Except a press release that my petition against the postponement of the barangay election was denied or dismissed by the Supreme Court by a vote of 8 as against 5 dissenters.
Okay. Sir, teka, mabalik lang ako dun sa very quickly. Dun sa issue ng campaign donors na contractors. There's one specific case, if you follow the PCJ reports, PCIJ, kung saan in-acknowledge ng kandidato na yung nag-donate sa kanya ay contractor mismo. Not the owner, not an official, but the contracting company. This is the case of New San Jose Builders that donated 20 million pesos to the 2022 campaign of Senator Joel Villanueva. So, siguro yun, may linaw.
Well, yun ang may malinaw yun. If the contractor himself admitted that it did that donation, then there's a violation, and that is in the last paragraph of Section 95 of the Omnibus Election Code. Kasi sinasabi ng Section 95, in the last paragraph, it shall be unlawful for any person to solicit or receive any contribution from any of the persons or entities enumerated above. Meaning, it cannot receive a contribution from these natural or juridical persons who have contracts with the government. Yun, malinaw yun kung inamin talaga. At kung tinanggap talaga ni Mr. Villanueva yung nasabing amount.
Kasi the company has housing contracts with the Philippine government. But anyways.
Yes, oo. Yun. Pero medyo malinaw yun kung gano'n. If there is an admission, then that could be a good evidence as against the elected official.
Okay. Maraming salamat for joining the big story. Election lawyer, Attorney Romulo Macalintal.
Now, in other news, authorities are investigating flood control projects or a flood control project in Dumanhog, Cebu, which sustained damage during the onslaught of tropical cyclone Verbena. Part of the structure crumbled and even the railings collapsed. It's been almost 3 years since the said national funded project was built by the DPWH. For the local government, the project was not substandard at all. The Public Works Department has promised to repair the structure.
For the past few years, they've noticed naman na parang may panda doon sa likod ng project ng flood control. Maybe that's the reason for how many rainfalls, how many bagyo na kinakain na talaga. Pathwalk doon sa design, wala talagang bakal. Pero yung slope, may bakal. Sa design yun.
Meantime, severe tropical storm Verbena has maintained its strength as it continues to move away from Philippine landmass at a speed of 15 kilometers per hour westward. At the moment, only the Calayan Islands in Luzon remain under signal number 1. Pag-asa forecasts Verbena to exit PAR tonight or early morning tomorrow. But it will continue to intensify until the resurgence of the northeast monsoon, which will result in a slight weakening trend for Verbena.
And we are pausing for another quick breather, but right after that, the Anti-Red Tape Authority, or ARTA, has published the top 10 government agencies that people are complaining about. The full list when the big story returns. Keep it here.
The big story is back with the list from the Anti-Red Tape Authority, or ARTA, that no government agency would want to be in. ARTA came out with the top 10 most complained government agencies from data gathered through email, social media platforms, public assistance and complaints desks, and other platforms. These are the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, the Land Transportation Office, LTO, BIR, Philippine Statistics Authority, Land Registration Authority, the Environment Department, Department of Human Settlements, Department of Foreign Affairs, Securities and Exchange Commission, and the Bureau of Customs. According to ARTA, most frequent violations involve the Ease of Doing Business and Efficient Government Service Delivery Act of 2018. People particularly complained about delays in the processing of applications or requests without valid justification.
Now let's switch to some good news that needs celebrating, of course, and that is the big win for the Signal family from the People Management Association of the Philippines. Signal, One News, and 1PH were named TV Station of the Year at the 13th PMAC Macatao Awards for Media Excellence. Accepting the award are Risa Gilas, Head of Channel Management and Programming, Jovi Francisco, Head for News, and Jose Christopher Cadua from HR.
It was a challenging and hectic past year for us, all of us, in the industry because of the elections, the hate, the Vatican, and the corruption issues in government na patuloy nating inabantayan. But we will continue delivering fair and needed content. So thanks PMAC for the recognition.
On top of that, TV5's primetime newscast, Frontline Pilipinas, earned the top TV news program Plum, while its anchor, Cheryl Cosim, who also hosts One Balita Pilipinas on 1PH, got the TV News Program Host Award.
Okay, now meantime, it's now illuminating over at Intramuros as Meralco Liwanag Park holds its ceremonial lighting. And joining us live tonight from Manila is mobile journalist Fatima Baduria. Hi Fatima, how's the situation over there now?
Good evening, Ed, Pauline, Shawn. Damang-dama na nga ang Pasko dito sa Plaza Roma, Intramuros dahil sa mga pailaw at Christmas decorations dito sa Meralco Liwanag Park. Merong Christmas tree na 20 feet. Ayan, nakikita nyo, medyo maliit siya dito, pero dahil malayo tayo, pero 20 feet yan at gawa yan sa recycled na takip ng mga metro. Meron din mga Christmas lights, parol. At ang kakaiba na hindi natin usually nakikita sa mga Christmas park ay itong Tranvia replica. Ito yung electric streetcar na inoperate ng Meralco before na unang mass rail transit system dito sa Metro Manila. At actually, dito yan unang nagkaroon sa Intramuros noon pang 1900. So after more than 100 years, nandito ulit siya sa Intramuros. At gawa rin yan sa recycled materials. Nabanggit nga ng Meralco, yung mga materials galing sa poste ng kuryente, pagka na-reach na yung maximum na lifespan niya, ay imbis na itapon, ay ginagawa na lang nilang decorations. At ito namang Meralco Liwanag Park ay open sa public mula 6 p.m. hanggang 10 p.m. ng gabi hanggang January 4 yan.
Ayan, so pwede pa kami humabol dyan. But for now, thank you very much for that report. That was mobile journalist Fatima Baduria.
All right, and finally, for our big picture tonight, it is Signal as the official broadcaster of the 33rd Southeast Asian Games, delivering a full multi-platform coverage of the event. The highly anticipated games are happening in Thailand from December 9 to 20. The rollout spans One Sports Plus, TV5, RPTV, Pilipinas Live, and Signal Play. Signal says the network is ready to showcase the strength and resilience of Filipino athletes via Tibay at Tatag, pinalakas na Pilipinas sa 33rd SEA Games. Do catch every moment of Team Pilipinas' campaign across free TV, pay TV, and of course, digital streaming.
Hey,
December na next week.
I'm so excited. Oo nga, no? December na.
Monday.
Oh.
Ay, wag muna.
Pero marami pang mangyayari before
Nagtago
December.
na
Of
I
course,
know.
this weekend, November 30.
Oo nga.
And on Friday, meron din
ICC
ICC.
sa Friday, rally sa Sunday.
Yeah.
Pahinga sa Saturday.
Okay, so marami tayong abangan. No? But for tonight, that's it for the big story this midweek. Thank you so much for watching.
We are back here tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. We'll see you then.
Kapatid, we are one news, all sides, all the time. Good night.